of Easter. What's up? I'm on the Sunday broadcast. I'm Keith Kelfis. I just want to make sure that I have audio here. And I just want to share a couple things with you. Sunday broadcast. I'm Keith Kelfis. I just want to make sure that I have... Good. We have audio. All right. So I've got this book here. It's a miniature version of the Bible. You can get free copies of it on plusnothing.com. And they'll send them to you for free. I actually ordered 20 of them, and then you can give like a donation to pay for them, or you can give as much of a donation as you want. And this was given to me as a gift, and I read the entire thing about a month ago. Every night before bed, I spent 15, 20 minutes, and I read through it. It's about like the life and times of Jesus of Nazareth, and it takes you right up to his death, his crucifixion. And then after 3 days, he rose again, which is what Easter is about. That's the meaning of Easter. It's not about the Easter bunny, which is kind of weird to me. I don't even know what that means, what's an Easter bunny, but it's really about the resurrection of Jesus. And so after being buried in a tomb behind a stone for 3 days, they go to find his body. And he's gone, like he's not there. And I'm going to read a little bit of this, and then all of a sudden he appears again, and he goes in front of all these people. It says here for the last 40 days. And there's all these accounts of this guy who all these people saw was crucified under Pontius Pilate. One of the Roman soldiers literally stuck a spear up in his side to make sure he was dead, and fluid came out of his ribs and blood and everything. Like, this guy was totally dead. They wrapped him in a cloth. I think it's called a tunic, and they buried him. And then there's this account of all these people saying that, and right here in the Bible, that he came back to life and then rose again to be at the right hand of the Father. And there's all these prophecies and all these accounts throughout history, which I haven't personally read, but I read about them, that this guy Jesus would come and be the Messiah, right? And the interesting thing to me is this might have even been myself at one point, was very fascinated about how people, including myself, would be like, well, how do you know that? Just because a bunch of controlling religious people who wanted to control people got together, so they wrote this book so they could control the masses. That's probably partly true. I mean, anybody can write anything. Look at the internet. It's fascinating to me. But another interesting thing to me is, my name's Keith. I grew up really poor, and I want to be successful. I'll just give you an example here. Really, really, really bad. To the point where I would look at other people as mentors and want to be like them or emulate them. And the fascinating thing to me is some of the most successful people that I've looked up to and want to mimic their qualities are people that believe in this, and they believe in Jesus. So it causes this cognitive dissonance. Well, first of all, there's different stages of truth. And the first one is like, total denial, then anger, right? Then you go through the different stages like grief, then you get to total acceptance, and it just becomes like, of course, right? Of course, it's true. And I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just talking about my process. Why are some of the most successful people that I've always looked up to, why do they believe in this Jesus guy, and they believe in Easter, and what is going on here? What is this cognitive dissonance? So it raises a question, and you have a choice. You can say, well, they might be really successful, but they're crazy. Okay, so if this person that I look up to is more successful than me, successful family, successful business, maybe even speaking in a church, helping people, doing a lot of acts of service, giving their lives away in service, and praising God and praising Jesus, can I really say that that person is crazy because they believe in this Jesus? Or do I need to look within and ask deeper questions? So I started to do that because I think all paths keep leading to the same truth. If you look at it in nature, I'm a landscaper, right? I look at it, and when I love nature and horticulture and plants and flowers, I'm starting a vegetable garden. I'm excited. I planted these little tiny seeds with my wife. We're really excited about this right now. We got all these different seeds, and we got starter mix, and we got the lights, and we did the research, and we planted these little seeds. And then we watered them. And after about a week, they're all germinating and they're popping up. And we've got corn and beans and zucchini and squash and all different stuff. And now I'm building a garden box outside. And I said, what part of this am I controlling or am I not controlling? Am I even controlling this at all? No. I have no control over these seedlings that are going to grow and become a garden that they're going to give us lettuce and different herbs and stuff. And we're going to be able to cook this in our kitchen, eat all this healthy food. All I can be is a good steward of these seeds, of the soil, of the environment. And then I get to be the beneficiary of what God, I mean, there's a higher intelligent order that I can't explain, and it's mathematically precisely perfect. If you study, like if you've heard of the Fibonacci sequence, there's way too many things that are beyond our comprehension and understanding of our carnal mind, of our flesh mind, of what our five senses can and can't perceive to explain everything. So the great poet Rumi once said, sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. You have to get into a state, the attitude of a beginner. Let go of thinking you know everything and start asking more questions again. You know, I studied consciousness in this author named Ken Wilber. He wrote Consciousness and the 1, 2, 3 of God. And he says there's lines, levels, states, and stages of consciousness. And most people in their mid-20s, they actually plateau and they don't evolve to the next state of consciousness. And I see your comments coming in thinking they don't evolve to the next state of consciousness, stage of consciousness again until they're in their late 50s. So the average person just plateaus. Why is that? Do they start thinking that they know everything? Have they been hurt? Are they stuck? Are they afraid? I study more consciousness and I learned about something called the stable datum, the biology of belief. You form these beliefs that hold you so strong because they make you feel safe and they protect you from threats. They protect you from threats. Oops, here we are. But then they also are preventing you from growth. They're preventing you from true evolution, which is spiritual. And when I read this book and when I read about the story and life of times of Jesus and I learn about what Easter really means, I become fascinated because it tickles something in my spirit. They say when you read this book that you are ingesting words of life. Like you're actually eating spiritual food. That sounds insane. I'll tell you one thing. I've gotten into meditation before. And when I was going through some changes in my life a few years back, and I've noticed that when you're in states of meditation or an alpha state, there's alpha, beta, delta, theta, right? When you're in certain states of meditation or very high levels of gratitude, or you're really excited, you access a higher frequency of consciousness that from that state, that elevated state of consciousness, all of the sudden, new information can come pouring in. It's almost like you have these channels, these inductive channels that are closed down when you're stuck in the lower density, the physical vibration of consciousness, where Christ was not stuck in, because this guy rose from the dead and was walking around. He was in a place of consciousness where he couldn't be bound by a physical body. And that's why he always said he wasn't in the jurisdiction. That's why when Pontius Pilate, when the people brought Jesus to be crucified, they would have, pardon me, I don't remember exactly because I'm still learning. They would have an event where all the people would gather and then they would pick to let a prisoner go as part of this event. And now they had Jesus there, as a prisoner, and they had this guy Barabbas. And Barabbas was like an actual really bad criminal who had done bad things. And so they brought Jesus to Pontius Pilate before they crucified him. And they said, well, what has this man done? They're like, well, he's a demon. He's the devil. He's going around saying that he's the Messiah, and he's healing people and creating all these miracles. This guy needs to be crucified. And Pontius Pilate was basically like, we've analyzed the situation, and there's nothing that I can do. I don't find this man guilty of any sin, said Pontius Pilate. And the people were like frustrated. And so they had a choice. And they said, instead of crucifying Barabbas, they chose to crucify Jesus. So Pontius Pilate handed Jesus back over to the people and said, do what you have to do with him. But I can't find any reason to crucify him because he hasn't done anything wrong. But really what was happening was Jesus was in a completely different jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction outside of Roman civil law. When you say different jurisdiction, he said he was not of this world. That's what Jesus said. He would talk about my Father in heaven. He would speak in these parables, and people's mouths would drop. What's going on here? So here's what I'm talking about. Remember about a minute ago, I talked about these higher states of consciousness, the inductive states of consciousness. Reductive is closing, inductive is opening until infinity. Imagine if you went to a place where there was mountains and an oasis, and it was amazing, and there was fish, and it was tropical paradise. But then you come back into the city, like I'm a city. I grew up in the city, and you're trying to explain to people what you've seen and how you've been transformed by it. And you have a suntan, and you're like, it's so real to you because you know for a fact it's real. You will die saying that it's real because there's nothing that can convince you otherwise. And people are looking at you like you're crazy. Or like, lock this guy up in a mental institution. He's crazy. We don't believe him. He says there's this tropical paradise, but you've actually been there. So Jesus came from a place that was not of here. It was a totally different place. So his entire worldview, right? Worldview. Listen to the word worldview. Worldview. Some of the most captivating and successful entrepreneurs I've met. The reason why, because I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship, the reason why I'm finding one of the main reasons why they're so incredibly successful and they can be in such a heart of service is because of the worldview, because they have a vision and they see something that all of their actions, we just look at their actions. People would look at Jesus's actions and what they said and what all these crazy Bible thumping Jesus people are saying, right? But when you've been to a place and you've seen a place and you've accessed that higher inductive state of consciousness where new information can come in and it transforms you permanently, where you can never be the same ever again. That's what I'm talking about. This was entirely new information to these people, and they rejected it. So they crucified him because he was a threat to their way of life. He was actually trying to free them. So is there a possibility that we could? I think we're very free, but parts of our minds are enslaved, imprisoned. So we need discernment. But anyways, I could talk about this for an hour. I'm fascinated by this topic. One more thing I want to say. This guy carried a cross up a hill to be crucified. How many people do you know, men and women, could carry a cross up a hill? Like, think about the hardest time in your life, the most brutal, unmerciful thing you've ever gone through. When you wanted to stick your head in the sand, go into depression, cry, run, evade it, avoid it. Well, this Jesus guy, it says in the Bible, these people wrote about it, that he literally picked up the cross and carried it up the hill. And while people were spitting at him, literally crucifying him and mocking him, he was saying, God forgive them, for they know not what they do. This is fascinating to me. I've never met anybody in my life who even has that state of consciousness where they can inductively inhabit or have a type of unconditional love that's so strong to love people in the face of that. So it's interesting to me. It keeps me asking more questions. I just finished reading my 477th book. I'm a bookworm. I'm listening to audiobooks all day. And out of all my favorite authors, like the story about this Jesus guy, it resonates in a way. I'm telling you the truth right now. This is just my truth. If I've read 477 books and the story about this Jesus guy resonates in a way that's just like, it's fascinating to me because everything lines up. The level of integrity, it just, it's incredible. So what is Easter about? Easter is about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Cool. That's all I want to say. Happy Easter. Some of my family is on here. What's up? I love you. Happy Easter. This is not me trying to preach or anything. It's just that I have access to the studio. This is my dream studio that I've built and created. And it's cool. And if I'm going to do like a Bible study on Sundays anyways, I felt it in my spirit to, why not just share? I have like my wife and I have a couple YouTube channels, but we have like 6 YouTube channels. We're getting like 4 million views a month on social media, posting 8 to 12 pieces of content per day. And I never talk about any of this stuff except for sometimes on Sundays. And so it's part of me, part of who I am. And I don't have any agendas or anything. It's just something I want to share. So hope you guys are doing great. I hope you have spent time with your family. And I'm out of here. Oh yeah, this book again, I didn't create this, but plusnothing.com, you can actually order these. And if you go on there, I would donate something to at least cover the cost of it, which I did. And then you can get copies of these for yourself and to give it away. And it's very easy to read. It's like, I got into this story when I read it, which is it pulled right out of the Bible in a very digestible way. It tells you like the whole life and story, leading up to the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that wasn't put in the Bible or stuff that was changed by people who did want to control things. I've heard that Jesus has, I don't know, but talked about things that certain people didn't want anybody to know because it would make us too free. But I want to know. Anyways, take care, guys.